Today we'd like to do a basic understanding training of chemicals. This will help you to understand how we procure the chemicals that we get and why we use what we use. So, a quick overview. You want to touch on some of the procurement rules. Now, these change from year to year, but we'll go over with kind of where we are now. We want to talk about how to evaluate chemicals and how you can get to know chemicals and understand them a little bit better. And then we want to talk about chemical cleaning versus mechanical cleaning. So to get started with procurement rules, currently here's what we have for the Salt Lake School District in the state of Utah. Most purchases are made through a Utah state contract, which means a vendor has to meet certain criteria and promise to perform certain obligations in order to get the what's called state contract. They usually have the lowest price on products of any vendor, but not always. And most of the purchasing departments, Salt Lake City School District included, use state contract first before they look outside of that for purchasing products. Now, in the custodial department, most of our POs can be set for a company that doesn't have a state contract if they're under $1,000. Meaning, if we want to try out a certain product, we can set a purchase order for under 1,000 with a certain vendor that may not have state contract, and we can try their product out for say a year. That also works very good. There's a clause in the purchasing department that says if you are going to do a trial of something, and it sets up kind of a trial agreement where both sides need to sign off and state what it is exactly they're going to do during this trial period, what the costs will be, and what the expectations will be. It is very good protection for both sides. If an item is a sole source, for example, you get a chemical that no other vendor carries or no other manufacturer makes, it's brand new and it's revolutionary, you don't necessarily have to use state contract. You use what's called a sole source form. That may change to a different wording, but pretty much you get the idea that it's the sole source for this, and you can try it out, and nobody else is going to be able to bid on it and see how this works for you, and you can still acquire a product through sole sourcing. Items must have 2 bids if they're over $1,000. So if I wanted to buy a piece of equipment, say a new vacuum, if it was over $1,000, I would have to get 2 bids. I would have to get one from a vendor and then one from another state contract vendor, or even the manufacturer could bid on that product. And as long as I have the 2 bids, it makes it very easy to get the equipment that we need. Now keep in mind that you're not allowed to take any gifts from vendors. What that means is that you can't, they can't buy you lunch. You can't go to the box seats at the jazz game that they have for a big feed or something like that. You can't, if they give you a trip or something like that. No, those things you cannot do. Those are considered gifts. In fact, anything over $10 is considered a gift. So if they're bringing you a pencil, or if they're bringing you a calendar, yes, you can accept those things. But just know that pretty much over that, it is forbidden unless you're a state legislator. Of course, state legislators are exempt from all of this. Gee, imagine that. My personal rule in procuring things is to buy local wherever possible. And what that means is you might find a certain piece of equipment that 2 or 3 vendors have locally, but then you might find it for a little bit less money on Amazon. Or there might be a vendor out of state that has it for a little less money. Well, I prefer to buy local simply for the fact that these are local businesses. They pay local taxes. The people who work for them um, pay taxes here in the state. So it just makes sense to contribute to the local economy wherever possible. One thing we need to be very careful of with out-of-state vendors is we'll get these phone calls. For example, oh, it's been very hard to get a hold of you. You must be a very busy person. Hey, we have this special going on right now on this certain chemical, and we want to know if we could send you a sample out. Now, they'll word it in very different ways, but what they're trying to get you to say somewhere along the line, because they're recording what you're saying, they're trying to get you to say, oh, yeah, sure, yes. Anytime you say that in a conversation with them, they will take that recording, and they can take it to a court of law, and they can charge you for these chemicals. And the problem is that's not something that has been authorized to be purchased by our purchasing department or the Salt Lake City School District. So keep in mind that you could be on the hook for those things. If you get a call from a out-of-state vendor, or from any vendor for that matter, it's a very good idea, unless you are in procurement, which the custodial leadership team is, but as a general rule, head custodians are not. If you get a call from a vendor, it's best to say, stop. This is the person that you need to talk to, and refer them to somebody else, or just hang up on them. Okay? That way, you don't take any chances of being on the hook for something that you really didn't want. So, how do we evaluate products? Well, first off, you always have to be open to new ideas and things. I remember several years ago that I had heard the University of Washington was cleaning with engineered water and microfiber cloths. And I thought, you have got to be kidding me. They're cleaning with magic water? No, magic water, no, chemicals work so much better. Boy, did I have my head in the sand. I really didn't understand. I was very ignorant as to the difference between synthetic chemicals and naturally occurring chemicals. So it's important that you know your chemicals. Most of what is out there are synthetic chemicals that are generated, such as the cleaners, the butyl-based cleaners that are out there, the disinfectants, the ammonium quaternary compounds or quats that are out there. These are all synthetic chemicals that are built and put together for cleaning purposes. But there are naturally occurring chemicals out there, such as sodium hydroxide, such as hypochlorous acid. Those things are more of a natural chemical. So it's important to know a little bit about chemicals. And of course, Dr. Google is always a good place to look and find answers. Ask questions, but ask educated questions. Not just if somebody brings something to you and says, well, here's this great product, and you say, oh, does it work? That's not an educated question. That's a stupid question. It really is. An educated question is, what makes it work? What is the active ingredient that causes this to work? And then if you don't know what that active ingredient is, look it up and find out exactly what it is and what its hazards might be. And is it really effective on what it is that you're trying to apply it to? Also, when evaluating, find out others who have used a product and talk with them. The Utah School Custodial Managers Association, or USEMA, is a great resource in finding out what other school districts have used and have they had success. How have they applied these products or these chemicals or these equipment in their system? And have they worked, or how well have they worked? Always try a new product in a test school or a test site or a test classroom, whatever you want to call it, to evaluate its worth. Don't just roll out a new chemical or a new program, a new piece of equipment to everybody. And that's a definite recipe for disaster. You really need to just try a little test section first before you roll it out to everybody and see how it works. Evaluate it, give it some time, give it 6 months, give it a year, and see how well it works within your system. Some chemicals or products worked well for some and not for others. I know that in some school districts, the way that they do their processes, the way that they do their cleaning, they will use certain products, and boy, that works great for them. But when we have tried or when we have evaluated, they don't work so well for us. So keep that in mind as well. Always keep an open mind. So know your chemicals. What is pH? Have you ever heard of a pH scale? Well, again, this is a good place to go to Google and find out what exactly the pH scale is. I can tell you that at one end, you've got things that are more acidic, orange juice, vinegar, some of the toilet acids we use, they are very low on a scale, 2, 3, 4 on the pH scale. pH neutral is 7, which means it's perfectly safe and good to use on our floors and our carpets and different things like that. Those with a higher alkaline content, such as degreasers, a lot of disinfectants, not all of them, but a lot of disinfectants, but a lot of good cleaners have a higher pH. And when you get into floor strippers and things, they have a very high pH. It's important to know what a solvent is. A solvent is something that when you mix it with water usually, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. A solvent is something that is able to dissolve other substances. Water is a very good solvent. Um, there are petroleum-based solvents out there. Um, Gasoline can be a solvent. You get what I'm saying. Again, a solvent is something that's able to dissolve other substances. What is dolimoline? Well, needing to understand what that is will help you in understanding what some of the bases of different chemicals are. Dolimoline, for the lack of a better term, it is derived from usually orange peels or lemon peels, and it's an oil that is acidic, that again is kind of a naturally occurring oil that is used in many products to help boost their ability to clean better. So understanding what the limonene is, again, that's a good one to Google and look up and see what exactly it says about that. What is petroleum based? When you look at ingredients on a label, quite often you'll see that it's a petroleum based solvent. Well, petroleum again is oil. Um, Gasoline, Stoddard solvent, lacquer thinner, those are all petroleum-based solvents. And usually they are, not that I want to use the word caustic, but they are usually pretty powerful and not the best on your skin. Some can cause cancer. Benzene, for example, is a petroleum-based solvent that is very dangerous. So what does acid do, and where should we not use it? Well, acids, pretty much, they dissolve. Uh, they dissolve lime deposits. So where do we have lime in a school building? Lime deposits. You think about this, and those hard water deposits that we get in the toilets and urinals, well, that is lime deposit. That's water. It's lime in the water that builds up. Also, where else? Well, the grout. The grout on the floors is made with limestone, crushed up limestone, and therefore the acid will attack, it'll bubble it up, and can help break down the grout if we're not careful. So again, we shouldn't use acid on our floors. There are better ways to clean our grout than to use acid on there. What is a disinfectant? Well, a disinfectant, for lack of a better term, a disinfectant is something that kills germs or kills bugs or kills whatever you want to call them. It kills pathogens. A disinfectant can take many forms. Many years ago, you used to have things like aldehydes, such as formaldehyde. Formaldehyde, 100 years ago, used to be used in the Salt Lake City School District uh, by the school medical officer, the school nurse. It was sprayed on books and furniture and all sorts of things to try and keep disease down. Alcohol. Different alcohols are a good disinfectant. You think about the isopropyl alcohol that they rub on your arm before they stick a needle in that. Well, it's a disinfectant. Quaternary ammonium compounds are also disinfectants. Oxidizing agents such as sodium hypochlorite, you know it as bleach. Analyte, which is very similar to bleach. It's electrolyzed water. There are hydrogen peroxide is another disinfectant. You think about that. Well, we use hydrogen peroxide in a lot of things around the home, but many of the chemicals that we've used in Custodial over the years contain hydrogen peroxide, so they also make a pretty decent disinfectant. Ozone,
What is chemical cleaning?
in its gas form and also in an aqueous form, is a very good disinfectant.
1970s, there was
Many
a
years ago,
professor
iodine
in Florida
was used as
who
a
came out with this
disinfectant.
wonderful
So
idea
these are some of the things that
would
are
make
out there
the cleaning
that
industry
you'll
would
run into.
revolutionize the cleaning industry. It
Something
would make
called
them much more
phenolics.
efficient.
Phenolics haven't been used
Because
in several
instead
years.
of just disinfecting,
Those who would
he thought,
remember
what if we could
staphine, that
clean
was a
and
phenolic,
disinfect at the
but
same
that was also
time?
used as a
What if we used a
as a
chemical
disinfectant many years
that
ago.
could
So
cut
again, it's
grease
very
and
important
cut
to
dirt
understand and
remove
know
the soils
what exactly is a disinfectant.
as well as disinfect?
So,
What is a
so
green
chemical cleaning is usually done with something that is kind of a little bit higher pH, somewhere around a 9 or a 10. Sometimes they're butyl based. Sometimes a lot of the ammonium quaternary compounds that are used have kind of a butyl base to them. And chemical cleaning simply removes the soils by use of just a chemical. Everybody's heard of the scrubbing bubbles. Well, that's just a chemical that, due to the action that it takes, it cleans and removes soil. Now, chemical cleaning, there are some greener methods of chemical cleaning. For example, I have an air filter on my car. It's a very special air filter that you can actually wash out and clean. To do so, I take what's called OxyClean, which is an oxygenated powdered detergent, and I mix club soda with it, which is carbonated water. The carbonation of the club soda and the oxygen in the oxygenated cleaner mixed together cause a gas to be expelled. If I add water to all of that mix, those bubbles, they start to churn, they churn the water, and they help to clean this particular air filter. It's kind of an amazing thing to watch. I will pour this stuff in and I watch the water percolate for a half an hour, and out comes all of this dirt on the surface of the water. It's actually kind of an amazing thing. So chemical cleaning isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's actually a very good thing. It's removing of soils. So what is mechanical cleaning? Mechanical cleaning requires some kind of an action. Usually that's good old elbow grease. It requires usually a machine to move, to scrub, to remove whatever it is that we're trying to remove. What's a good example of mechanical cleaning? Well, a good old cloth. Just grab a cloth and wipe a surface, and that removes some things, doesn't it? Depending on the cloth you use, it can remove quite a bit of dirt. What happens when we put them both together? When we take a chemical, such as water, engineered water, or something harsher, like a butyl-based cleaner, that is a good, deep degreasing type chemical, and we pair that with a hand motion of rubbing a rag or a sponge or a Scotch-Brite pad, whatever it is. Then you get a lot better cleaning. You get the mechanical removal as well as the chemical removal. So it's kind of a twofold gotcha to dirt and helps to remove it. But it is important that we know and understand the difference between chemical cleaning and mechanical cleaning. Now, economy meets productivity. So a lot of the very harsh chemicals that we might buy are very expensive as well. So you spray these degreasers on, and yeah, you'll see the dirt kind of melt away, but they're usually very expensive, these type of chemicals. Well, if we were to just take regular water and a rag, and you sit there and grind on it with your hand for a few minutes, well, yeah, it'll eventually come clean, but it takes a lot of time. But you're not using an expensive chemical. You're just using your hourly wage as the economical factor, determining factor. So somewhere along the line, you have to look at this wall that I'm going to clean. Is it more productive for me to just take water and a rag and wipe the whole thing until it's clean, which might take an hour? Or what if I use a chemical and just spray and wipe and have it done? Well, somewhere, again, we've got to have the economy of things meet the productivity. So you find a product that will, again, take care of things quickly and easily, but efficiently and effective without spending far too much money. So here at the very end, I'd like to give you some links. This particular link for the limonene is very good and gives you a good explanation of what the limonene is. Utah State contracts. You can go to the Utah State purchasing site and gives you great guidelines about purchasing and how things need to be purchased within the state of Utah. And again, this code about why we can't accept gifts from vendors and things such as that. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope that you have learned something. If you have any questions, please contact one of the administrative team, and they'll be happy to assist you with anything further. Thank you.